Hello! In this video, I'm going to show you how I transformed my workspace into a complete studio that adapts to my needs, not only for computer use, but also for the electronic work that I usually do on the channel. In the previous video, I showed you how I built a mezzanine in the living room of my house, but there was still a lot of work to be done. This would be the space for my new office, where I'm going to put the computer and more work stuff, since I also wanted to integrate all this electronic stuff and all that. First, I started by sanding all the wooden railing and applying a varnish to protect it. For this, I used a varnish with a slight, let's say, brownish tint, but in reality, it could be any. And on the other side, for some reason, they had decided to paint it in two colors. So on the top part that was brown, I painted the whole new space white. And while painting, I also realized that I don't know why there was a lot of silicone stuck on my wall that, it took me a lot to remove. Once everything was painted, I started to put all the light boxes to provide power. I didn't want to put them inside the wall since it meant chipping and breaking a lot, so I opted to put external boxes with black metal tubes. And I also made this decision because here would be the desk. So practically these boxes with the tubes would not be seen. And once all the electrical installation was in place, I could start putting together the whole space. I decided to make the most of the space by putting an L-shaped desk, and I did it in the cheapest way possible. The desk itself are 2 pine boards, the cheapest wood at least here in my country. In total, the desk measures 2.20 meters by 2.20 meters and 70 centimeters deep. But I had to think about how I was going to put them. On one side, what I did was place a chest of drawers. I bought this chest of drawers used, and they gave it to me very cheap because it was somewhat deteriorated. I paid about $6 for it. And the restoration was super easy. Simply with an iron, I peeled off all the old edges that were broken, and with the same iron, I glued new white edges that I then profiled and sanded to make them flush. This already changed its face along with a good cleaning. The other problem it had is that it was made of medium density fiberboard, and one of the sides had gotten wet, which caused the wood to swell. And this seems to have no solution, especially in medium density fiberboard. But yes, first I sanded all the swollen parts with a 40 grain sandpaper, and then I leveled it with a 220. Once sanded, I prepared a mixture of wood sawdust mixed with carpenter's glue until it becomes like a paste, and that paste I spread on the furniture, spreading it as if it were a filler. Once dry, I went back to sanding with 220 grit sandpaper and painted that face of the furniture white. It's important to make this paste because if not, the broken parts of the medium density fiberboard will absorb the paint, and you won't be able to paint anything. Besides, it would look very bad. And as you can see, once it's dry, it's not that it has been impeccable, but I do consider it quite good. You have to get quite close to notice the imperfections. I was going to rest one of the desk boards on this chest of drawers, but as I was about 10 centimeters short in height, I printed 4 columns with the 3D printer with 100% fill, so they would be very resistant, and I put them on. On the chest of drawers, 4 corners. They are printed using black polylactic acid from Grylan 3. On the other side, I simply placed an air conditioning bracket, which is made of iron with reinforcements and can hold a lot of weight. The bracket is screwed into the wall, and on the corner of the desk, I put some metal L's in each corner, and so it would be more than firmly fixed, and to prevent the boards from separating from each other, I joined them with a metal plate. Now it was time to treat the wood so it would be impeccable. First of all, I used the same paste that we prepared for the other furniture to put the joints of the boards. This fills these small spaces. Now, since the table I bought was only 2 centimeters thick because otherwise it would have been too expensive, I simply did a little trick to make it look thicker. I bought some slats of the same wood and another 2 centimeters thick and glued and nailed them to the ends of the boards, outlining the entire table. It's just a few centimeters of wood put all around the perimeter of the table, but it gives the impression that now the wood that was 2 centimeters thick seems to be 4, which gives it more robustness and, in my opinion, looks much better. Now it was time for the issue of paint or varnish. Every time I varnished, it turned out really bad, so this time I wanted to try something different. Before varnishing, I bought a wood stain. but I made sure it was soy oil based, as water-based ones cause this wood, being so soft, to expand and release small imperfections that practically ruin everything. So first I sanded the desk with 220 grit sandpaper and then I applied the stain. The stain is applied directly to the wood and then you spread it all over the plank with a small cloth. Don't worry if some parts have more stain than others. Just aim to cover the entire surface, and once you've done that, with another clean cloth, go over it collecting all the excess stain and you're done. Once I did this, I applied 2 coats of glossy clear varnish using a roller. If the roller leaves small bubbles, simply go over it again, but without applying any pressure, just dragging the roller very gently, and that's it, they're gone. And this is how my desk turned out. Honestly, I'm super happy with the result. The next thing I started to do is a piece of furniture to store filaments. I had some space left at the back of the drawer unit, so I thought I'd put it there. I simply put 4 little wheels on a wooden board and screwed 2 more boards on the sides. I placed 2 more crosswise to join them, and at each one where I was going to put the reel, I made some holes through which I passed a cut broomstick and then I put a handle. And ready as you see it is something simple, but 8 reels fit and they all spin super comfortable. But the best thing is that as the printer would go above, I simply put a little hole in the desk through which to pass the filament, and it goes straight to the printer. So the printer, while it is printing, is taking the filament from inside the furniture, the lighting. It couldn't be on the ceiling, otherwise I would bump into it while walking, so I decided to put a light-emitting diode strip behind a piece of wood and screw it to the wall, and behind the monitor I placed 2 light-emitting diode filament lamps with wooden bases. All of this is dimmable, and I will be showing step by step how I made them in an upcoming video. On the side of the railing, I made a piece of furniture that looks like the one I already had, and inside I placed a small refrigerator. I bought this refrigerator not working and also at a super cheap price, and I completely restored it. In addition, I am also preparing a specific video of this since it is a somewhat long process but also quite interesting since this refrigerator works with ammonia without a compressor and without moving parts. And now, with all the furniture done, I started with the ornaments and decorations. First, I wanted to beautify the pillars of the railing. I didn't like how they connected with the floor. So what I did was 3D print some baseboards, but I didn't print them with just anything. I used plywood from Grylon 3. This filament is one of the new creations from the people at Grylon 3, and it's a wood filament. That's how it turns out. It feels and looks exactly like wood, only with a uniform color, and I glued these on each of the pillars. I continued with the desk. I printed 4 bases for some shelves that I painted with the same stain as the desk, and that add a huge utility to the whole setup. First, I used it to put the monitor on top, and then a soundbar and the lamps also on top. But the most interesting thing is that in the space that was left underneath, I printed 9 drawers with separations to use them to store all the small electronic components that I use and that I used to have too disorganized. In the drawers, I also placed some drawer dividers so I could organize everything more comfortably. Above the monitor, I hung my YouTube plaques and assembled the entire PC to finish. I gathered the cables from the bottom side with these guides so the cables weren't all hanging, and on the desk I put a puck of grey felt along with a brown leather mousepad, and I also modded my keyboard by changing the keys and the cable. If you're interested in knowing how I did it, let me know in the comments. In the center of the desk and under the monitor, I placed a wireless charger built into the same wood of the desk. And I use it to charge my phone simply by placing it there, or to charge my mouse that now also has a modding to charge it wirelessly. And on the side of the work table, I placed a cutting board to avoid damaging the wood when I work. On the wall, I screwed 2 thin acrylic plates, one of which I use to note down pending tasks, and the other is a calendar to better organize the work I have to do. I made the calendar in a super easy way. It's simply a 2mm acrylic plate to which on the back I made a black cut plotter with a basic calendar design, and as it couldn't be missing, I also put plants. The first and largest one I placed on a wooden base so it was visible. The second one I placed in a pot of David's head, the third in an ancient Greek vase, and the fourth is the best of all. It's an air carnation. I placed it on a vase of a style I think is Greek, but the main attraction is not that, but that it's floating above my computer. Yes, literally the pot is levitating and spinning several centimeters away from my cabinet. For this, I used a system of magnets and it does not affect my computer at all. I made it myself, and if you want to know how I did it, let's set a goal of 2,000 comments on this video. I think it's the first time I've set a goal like this on the channel, and I don't know, it seems interesting to me. To finish, on the floor, I put a large shelf to put the printer and some other things there. Underneath are 3 baskets for storing rarely used items. All the space is excellently utilized. For the stairs, I bought a piece of construction wood. The cheapest one, and I sanded it on one side. I placed this wood in the gap between the stairs and the wall and then filled it with white stones. To prevent the stones from rolling down, I placed some wooden stops. And that's how it looked with all the stones in place. As you can see, I didn't do it all the way up because otherwise the vibrations could start to make them fall. The ladder itself was quite deteriorated, having been compromised. I sanded it down and applied 2 coats of varnish. And going over everything a bit in a small tour of the desk, we first have the plant with the fridge, then the PC area with the modified keyboard and mouse, and drawers under the monitor to store computer stuff. Dimmable lamps and the microphone arm for recording. Further to the right, we have the cabinet with the floating plant and David's plant. And the other desk, which would be the work one, we have a shelf with a plant, and underneath drawers with all kinds of electronic components. In the drawer unit, we have everything separated, whether it's tools, cables with rubber bands so they don't get tangled, recording equipment, and the other side with its respective separators, electronic components but larger ones. On the wall, the 8-foot lamp and the boards to write with marker or stick post-its. And on the back side, the filament storage. And this is how it turned out, from having a place with practically no space to having a very complete office where everything I need for my work fits. I also want to thank my girlfriend as she was the one who designed this entire space and I followed her ideas. And if you liked it, please subscribe and leave a like. See you in the next one. Bye.